Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to the PMAC team for affording me the opportunity to speak today. And thanks to everyone for the birthday wishes. This is my second year spending my birthday at PMAC. It's becoming a tradition. And so I'm very grateful to be in beautiful Suriname and to be among my colleagues. Now this morning, or about afternoon now, we are talking again about digitalization. But what I want to focus on is less on the technical side and more on the human element side of things, because that's where the issue really lies. So we've heard a lot during this conference about digitalization, what it is, which is really about using technology in a way that really enhances our processes, that improves our customer service, improves our efficiency. So we've heard all about that. So I'm going to skip there. We've heard so much about the different solutions that can be used in this digitalization process, whether it's the different automated systems, the data analytics, the new kid on the block, artificial intelligence, and we've seen some really cool stuff of what can be done and how things can be scanned and all of that. However, the problem often lies in the implementation of it. It often lies in getting our people on board. And that is because even though we have the head knowledge, we understand the need, we've heard the importance from each party about what it takes to really be efficient in our space, but it hasn't resonated with the everyday for a lot of persons. And so often there's a disconnect between head knowledge and what I call heart knowledge, or feelings about things. And so we often have some fears, some myths, some trepidations about different processes, and we are going to take a look at a couple of them. So the big one is that we believe that technology is going to steal all our jobs. And oftentimes when we have a new project, the first thing that our people think of is this is coming to replace me, to displace me, and so they try their best to make it not work, in essence, because they feel like you are going to change the way that you do things, you're going to kick us off the team, and we'll be out of a job. So has anyone ever felt that or heard that sentiment? Okay, I hear some chuckles, so it seems so. The World Economic Forum, in their Future of Work report that was released last year in 2023, about what is estimated as the new set of jobs coming up in the next 5 years, does say that it is anticipated there will be about a 2% decrease in the job market overall, because of the various automations and the shift that is taking place within the workplace. So yes, there may be some jobs that are displaced. But what was more interesting to me is just the shift in the type of jobs overall. So even as some jobs are going out, there are many more that are coming in. And we have to find a way to ensure that our people are prepared for this. And one stat that I found really interesting going through the report is that as it stands now, or traditionally, we would have very low-skilled jobs, and that would take up the bulk of the workforce. Then the medium-skilled jobs and the high-skilled jobs, they would be at the pinnacle of that pyramid. But there's a shift now where there needs to be more high-skilled workers, more medium-skilled workers, and there needs to be less low-skilled workers. And that's sort of good news for our workers, because the higher skilled jobs pay more, the more medium skilled jobs pay more. And so we have to therefore anticipate the shift to upskill our people so that a crane operator is now able to operate a crane remotely and not just on the ground, and they can be dual skilled in that type of way. So when the automated cranes come in, they can do both. If it breaks down and you need to go back to your manual crane, they can do both. And so that is the shift that we are seeing now in terms of the world of work and what is happening. So our data entry clerks may be reducing, but then we need more automation specialists. We need more engineers. We need more technicians to run these different programs. So how are we going to upskill our persons? Now, I am very young, I believe, even though I just celebrated a birthday. And I'm just in the industry for 4 years now, so I'm a baby in the industry, so to speak. But many of you here are veterans in this building, in this business, sorry. And I know when you started out working in the port industry, what was your first job? Compared to what are you doing now? How have even in your own personal spaces you've transitioned greatly in terms of the skills that you've had to utilize? The difference now is that persons have to switch more quickly. You have to enhance your knowledge more quickly. We can't be static in terms of our learning and adaptation of what is coming. The next sort of fear or myth that we want to tackle is that digitalization really only benefits the more advanced member states. And I've heard it even in this conference a little bit, the sentiment running about that we are yet to see what some of the cost versus benefits, is it worth it sort of thing, like does it really benefit us at the end of the day? And there was a World Bank report on digitalization and the critical need for developing states in 2020 that says that of anybody else who needs this process, it is the small island states, it is the developing states, because we are so dependent on our ports for everything. We make very little, we produce very little on our own, and so because of that interconnectivity where we need, as has been said, some things can't be brought in by plane. If there isn't a ship coming, we're kind of lost in the water, so to speak. And so we have to ensure that our ports are at its maximum efficiency in order to really keep us where we need to be in the competitive space. So that is sort of the other, fear that we have to combat. And the third one I want to look at is that fear and concern that taking on another digitalization project, it's just too much. We see it even in the survey that was put out by our Digitalization Working Committee, which I am a part of, where because of just that human psyche to say that this is such a daunting task, there is sort of paralysis in just getting started. And that's it, we're human, and so we have to combat that paralysis to say, it's just too much, so how do I get started? And so there was a white paper done by the Port of Rotterdam and the British Ports Association that talked about digitalizing a step-by-step process. And in that, they recommended a digital maturity model of 4 levels. And it recommended we start at step 1, or assessing where we are on that maturity scale. And step 1 is just digitizing our own internal processes first on our ports. And maybe that's where a lot of us are. And so the concept of a PCS, which is step 2, the integrated systems or maritime single window, it's hard to go there if your own internal systems aren't digitized yet. You don't have an electronic bill of lading in place or to be able to process that and then to connect those systems. And then step 3, if you've passed step 1 and 2, would be integrating those systems with your hinterland. So for Suriname, who has neighbors such as Guyana, you have your Colombia and other South American neighbors, to be able to connect your system in Suriname with those systems. So that is the next level. And then level 4 is connecting the whole world. We're not there yet. We'd love to be, but we're not there yet. But let's start back at step 1, right? And to see how do we go about these small processes, one by one. I often think about my 5-year-old son. He hates food. I don't know why. And so whenever I want him to try a new food, I have to cut it up in the smallest of pieces possible and say just start with taking the first bite. And that's what it is. And yes, you're not 5-year-olds, but we still have that kind of psyche where when you see the whole thing, it feels too much. So let's start by taking the first bite. So how do we take action? And so I have come up with an action plan for us. A is assessment, C, commitment, T, technology integration, I, implementation, O, ongoing support and training, and N, nurture and monitor. So I hope this will be easy to remember. I like my acronyms. That's how I used to study when I was in school. And so I'm going to go through this part quickly. So A, assessment, and it's been said multiple times throughout the conference, which is just doing that gap analysis to see what areas of our ports or operations is really in need of digitalization. Because not everything can be done at once. So whether you decide to start with what is the most needed, or start with the low-hanging fruits, what is easiest to do first, just to get our people comfortable. And then we go on to commitment, the C. And I think that this is the biggest one, our people. We have to ensure that each area is committed to the task, from the management team, the IT teams, and our staff on the ground. This is an interesting story. I'm not even know if I'm allowed to share, but I'll share it. I'm going to take Darwin's lead and just share it nevertheless. We had a project at ADVANTUM with one of our ports in Jamaica where we were implementing our appointment system there. So that is when the customers are coming for their cargo to have that appointment and queuing system to see who is in the queue next to be processed, etc. And there was a lot of difficulty getting the staff on board with using the system, and we were wondering what was the disconnect. And so our project team lead went there just to find out what was happening, because they're saying it's not working, but we're like, everything indicates that it's working fine. Just to realize when she went there that the original way of doing things is that on the outside of the warehouse facility, where, you know, persons would just come and congregate before they get inside, there would be some unofficial workers there selling spots. You know, our Caribbean people are very resilient and ingenious on developing their own work. And so they would sell a slot to get you further in the line inside. So they would have someone on the inside who they're trying to say, hey, put this person up further. And so in us implementing a system that would say which person is in line first, that would have the audit trails to say who is to come next and to be able to do that reporting, that was the problem. And so it wasn't the system at all, it was the people behind it who had a problem with this being implemented, because this would disrupt some of their unofficial cash flow, so to speak. And so it took us going there to actually just walk through to see what was happening on the ground, to know what to know, say to the managers and whomever, to say, hey, this is what is happening, so we have to find a way to really get these people on board. We can say, yes, the system is now implemented. The queuing process goes much quicker. They have seen the efficiency there where persons are in and out quickly, but you know, some friends just can't get through as early as they would have wanted to originally. But that is the beauty of technology, where, you know, there is audit trails, there is transparency as to what is happening. And sometimes our people are not really on board with that. And that is, you know, as I said, there's a disconnect between the head knowledge and the heart knowledge. Then, of course, after, you know, we have said to our teams that this new thing is coming on board, whatever it is, whatever type of project that you're doing, is when you have to focus on technology integration. Because each piece of the puzzle has to fit together. So whatever systems you're putting in place, it has to be able to connect with your PCS or your maritime single window, or your accounting system has to be able to connect with this system, whatever way it is. So whatever you're looking at or whatever solutions that you're looking at, ensure that they're able to connect in that way. So just questions to ask. Of course, bring in your IT teams so that they say, what is the security part of it? How does this connect with what we're doing internally? How does the CCTV connect to? So whatever it is, to ensure that the systems are able to connect and to speak to each other, because it will not make sense if systems are still operating in silos, because you won't be able to have that full overview or picture of what it is that you're doing. And then the I is the implementation plan. And again, as I said, we're going to take it step by step. As Mike mentioned earlier, who is from Hudson and my colleague on the digitalization committee, about only 30% of projects are successful or actually implemented. But oftentimes the issue is that there were some big goals, but there weren't some small goals before. And so we have learned that it's best practice to really take it small step at a time. I was very impressed the other day. I was coming back from Guyana to Jamaica, and when I entered the airport immigration hall for Jamaican citizens, a couple of us were pulled out of the line to test a new auto-scan system thing that they had with their passports. I don't know how they chose that sample size, a couple of us. Maybe we looked very friendly and like we had nothing to do to go and test this system. But we went over and they said, just try if this works. And we went, mine didn't work, but two other ladies, their own worked. And they said, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, that's fine. We just wanted to know what is the issue to ensure that when we implement this, everything is okay. And so, having been pulled out of the line, they brought us back to the front of the line. Well, me, because mine didn't work, to just go through. And I appreciated that, because I know that the next time I go, or I'm hoping when I go back now, I will see that working, because they just did it small steps at a time. And that's what we have to do too. Sometimes we have these lofty ideas of just overhauling and a hard cutoff, but you have to know your people and your space and how it works. Whether it is, we say for this Friday, we are going to try out this new system, or we like to do parallel runs of things, to say a small subset of your team is doing it, you know, the new way, automated way, and a small subset. The rest is doing it the usual way, and then comparing results. Which one went faster? Did you see everything you should see, etc.? So we don't have to always think we have to do this entire massive overhaul all at once. To really take it baby steps, because you want to ensure once you implement, it's done well. And then O is the ongoing training and support. And this is both for your teams and from whatever your solution providers are, whether it's your in-house solutions or you have, you know, gotten an external solution, that they provide support for your systems, that if anything goes wrong or haywire, because guess what, it's technology, and it's not foolproof either. And so we have to ensure that that support is there, but that you also support your teams. You have to remember too, we have staff turnover. So even though you've trained this set of team members today, tomorrow you may have new persons coming on. So ensure that you have a plan set out as to the training of team members as they come on, to get them up to date with what it is that you're doing. And it's also about addressing any issues along the way. Because sometimes there is a disconnect. I realize I am often called upon to be translator within my organization as the communications person. So I don't have an IT or technical background. Yes, I'm a little personal techie. I love gadgets and devices. But sometimes my IT persons will say, hey, I got this email and they're saying they have this issue. Translate, what is the actual issue? And I read through, I'm like, oh, they just can't. And they say, why didn't they say that? I'm like, because people don't speak the way you speak. Or IT guys, they have a whole very technical way of thinking. Whereas the average everyday, we're like, I can't see the screen. What on the screen can't you see? I'm like, oh, they just needed to scroll up. They didn't see it on the first set of the screen, the opening page. Sometimes that's simple as that, but they're like, but you can see the screen. So sometimes there's that disconnect. And so we need the translators in our organization to find the persons who are best able to bridge that gap at times to say what it is that we mean and what it is that we really mean, so to speak. So it really takes that ongoing training and support of our teams if we expect that we want to be successful in whatever implementation that we are doing. And then the last is nurture and monitor. And yes, I just wanted an N, so nurture and monitor for my action plan. So we have to ensure we're always collecting and incorporating feedback and make the necessary adjustments and improvements. But also it's about nurturing that culture of change. Because for me, 2 years ago, is it 2 years now? When AI became public, free for use like ChatGPT and so on, perhaps 2 years before that, I could never have fully imagined that would be so available to everyone. And now there's such a change. When I just started working in communications, Instagram just became a thing. That's 2012 thereabout, or it was just becoming a thing. And organizations didn't even have, official Instagram pages or official YouTube pages or things like that. And now it's now a critical part of a lot of organizations in just the space of about 10 years' time. Things that weren't important before now become of utmost importance. And that's hard to wrap our minds around. And oftentimes the changes are happening more and more quickly. And so we have to have that flexibility, that adaptability, that whatever else new is coming our way, that we're able to assess, see whether it fits in line with what our goals or objectives are, and whether it is that we need to shift and to move in a particular direction. And so, as I said, it's really about leading and change and transformation. So, Malika, I'm not sure if she's still here. My glasses don't work well, I don't see very well. But we have partnered with the CSA because we're also CSA associate members, that's ADVANTUM. And a lot of what we do is change management talks or leading and change and transformation, because as I said, it's not just an IT project oftentimes, it's an entire process of changing the way people think and feel about the entire process of digitalization. So we do have another training coming up with the CSA on, well, you see it there, Tuesday and Thursday, July 16 and 18. And you're all invited to be a part of the training. And I don't believe there is a registration link. I believe you just need to call the CSA. However, I will have up my QR code there, so you can just send me an email and I can connect you with the CSA for that training if you so desire, or for your teams or your team leads who really need to have that flexibility and adaptability when it comes to leading the various changes that may come. Whether they're technology projects, whether it is something else, whatever it is, but that is where we're going. We are in a time of consistent change, and we have to ensure that we find a way to link that head knowledge with that heart knowledge so that we actually implement successful programs. I don't know if I should pull up Milo and say, thank you for no questions. But thank you.
Thank you, Tishay. Questions from the floor? We got room for one. Do I see a hand? Oh, from the Secretary General. One moment. His Excellency.
Thank you. Excellent presentation and really powerful statement. In my life, I have encountered this change management problem as maybe the biggest obstacle to making things happen. Now, in this case, change management has to start by changing processes first. Sometimes what happens when you think about digital, you jump into old processes. And all of a sudden here you're digitizing something that you shouldn't. And that is really the first stage. Maybe getting to discuss this with CEOs and the high levels, because they really need to change the whole business plan sometimes before even talking about digitization. And that is something that a lot of people forget. Digitization is not necessarily a tool. It's really a change in the business plan, the business processes. Everything that you're doing is going to change.
That is so true. That is so true. And which is why we often have these training sessions with our CEOs and managers where we help them to realize what is necessary in just their organizations, how to look at what is the next process, or how do we, set our goals and our objectives as an organization. And thereafter, which was our first step, is that assessment in the action plan. So it's also assessing your goals, your objectives, how it is that we want to put ourselves out in the public, or what is it that we are trying to achieve for our country, trying to achieve for our customers, trying to achieve for our internal staff members, and then we use the tools at hand to achieve that. And so it really starts here, having that transformational leadership mindset. So, yes.
Thank you. Please stay on the stage for a little present from Glenn. All right. Our final presentation for the day